All right. I don't know. Okay, Christ my Lord, the giver of light and wisdom, who opened the eyes of the blind man and transformed the fishermen into wise heralds and teachers of the gospel through the coming of the Holy Spirit, shine also in my mind the light of the grace of the Holy Spirit. Grant me discernment, understanding, and wisdom in learning. Enable me to complete my assignments and to abound in every good work, for to you I give honor and glory. Amen. Most blessed Lord, send the grace of your Holy Spirit on me to strengthen me, that I may learn well the subject I am about to study, and by it become a better person, for your glory, the comfort of my family, and the benefit of your church and our nation. Amen. All right. Before we dig into books 7 and 8 of the Republic, if you have a paper for me, I will take it. Oh, Grace, I've got a paper floating around for you. It's not floating. Oh, I just saw it. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, here it, okay. Yeah, we're good. Okay. So let's see. Oh, this is Would I Have Enjoyed a Conversation with Socrates. Yours, Grace, is a little, I'll just mention it when I get to it. Oh, Preston is not here yet. I will put Preston's paper here. We have Gabriel. No revisions or anything on this. This was just a kind of a response. And here we go, Grace. I did ask for a revision. I couldn't find P1 or Latotes, but maybe it's in there. You can talk to me afterwards if you want. Because I might just cancel that order do another one of those since you were traveling. Nathan and Noah, these are incoming for both of you. Yeah, you guys were very honest. And I really liked that. And I feel like I was in agreement with you that, it never makes a person feel foolish publicly. I feel like we might be guarded against that if we didn't claim to know a bunch of stuff when we went into the conversation with him. Do you notice that a lot of his, not Adeimantus and Glaucon, but Thrasymachus, right, and Euthyphro, and Miletus, the guy who got called up to the stand in the Apology, they were very sure that they knew. And nothing puts a target on your back more around Socrates than being really, really super sure you know. However, I'm just going to, before we talk about the cave, is that the way, we as Christians, are we supposed to live our lives perpetually saying we don't know about everything? Socrates says, all I know is I'm not wise. And he seems sometimes to despair. For example, not despair, but realize that he falls short. They say, Adeimantus and Glaucon, last week, what is the good? What is this good that you want us to look at? And he says, well, I can't really say. I couldn't say. But I can tell you what it's like. It's like the sun. And just like everything we see because it is illuminated by the sun. And the sun's existence makes it appear to us. That's what the good is like, but not in the realm of things we see. Remember our divided line? Not in the realm of the things we see, but in the realm of things we understand. This is not a very hard definition, right? I mean, hard in the sense of written in stone, sure this is it, very detailed. It's just not. So Socrates seems open to the idea that he just doesn't know. He keeps asking people. There's things maybe he's never going to know. But as Christians, what is the point of our search for knowledge? Or where is it found? It's not a trick question, I promise. God. In God. So G.K. Chesterton, a Christian writer and thinker, he said something, I have it on a magnet in my fridge because I like it. He said, the purpose of an open mind is like the purpose of an open mouth. Eventually you want to close it on something. Right? So walking around with an open mind, I don't know, let's explore this topic further. Eventually you have to make a stand. I believe this is true. Does that make sense? And and if you read more, if you take shine to Plato and you like to read more of his dialogues, you're going to find he's a little short on the closing his mind onto something, but sometimes he does. And in fact, today's reading he did about what kind of education these guardians should receive. So I have no art again. I changed my plan, and that changed my art. Come on in, Preston. Do not bump your head. I feel like you've learned your lesson at this point. We have not really dived into anything yet, Preston. I have a paper for you. And, by the way, nailed it. Nailed it. And if you have a paper for me, you can just set it over here on this side of the table when you get it up. I have no writing assignment for you for next week.
Aww.
I love Emma's response always. It just makes me happy. You make my heart happy. It's like, but I like to write. If you want, Emma, this is always true. If you want to write it, I will read it. And I will mark it up and say, whatever, I will respond. But I just, partly because I'm going to be really consumed with editing the things that you just gave me. And I'm going to be tired out by next week because it takes a good lot of effort to do what I did, when I edit for revision. Yes.
This is for teachers. So you say that if whatever we write, you'll read it. Is there like a limit? Like just like whatever topic, whatever type, like an essay, so.
Yeah, if you want to write something for me, I'll read it,
So
and I'll give you
I
feedback.
could just write like a whole thing of who is Edward Cullen, and then you'll read it.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you a Twilight fan? I read the books.
Yeah, and I actually I read Twilight. I read the first one. Anyway, so I might know something. Anyway, no, that's because I'm sorry, this is a tangent, but we'll get to mocking me. Okay, here we go again. There's a limit to how many genres of writing we can explore together, and there's a limit to how much I can ask you to write when I'm also asking you to read a good deal. And sometimes you would just like to explore some other kind of writing. I've had students write poems that they just wanted me to check out, because they like to dabble in poetry, and they wanted to get some feel. I'm fine with that. I'm quite serious that if you write it, I will read it. If it's really, really long, if it's like 100 pages, I might ask for some time. I don't promise to read it in a week, but I do promise to read it. All right. When we left off last week, we had this very enigmatic, weird line chart. And I'm not going to go back through the whole thing painstakingly again. But I do want to just kind of remind us of his point. And remember the context. We have these guardians, not the auxiliaries, right? Because some people just can't hack it. Some people in this city that they've designed are not going to be able to hack it, and they're going to just not be able to achieve the highest levels of understanding. The auxiliaries are going to go a long way. So basically we have two realms. We have the realm of the visible, which we pretty much live in, but we don't live in it exclusively. We also have the realm of the intelligible. And we use that word, say, you know, your writing is completely, well, we'd say illegible, but also intelligible, unintelligible. Not able to be understood. So can you give me an example of something you can understand but you can't see?
Numbers.
All right, numbers. Now, can you see that?
Yes.
So does that mean he's wrong?
But what is the number?
What is it? Because you can say, well, there's four of those, four of those. First of all, there's a realm
Bless you.
where when we say, what is four? Small children will do this, right? They do exactly what Euthyphro did. Well, there, see those dots? It's four. It's exactly what he did, right? That's not fourness. That's an example of four. And so you bring all these collected things, but have you ever noticed that our minds have the ability to gather all of this information? Not toddlers yet, they're working on it. This is why toddlers need to play, young children need to play and play and play and go outside and go on walks and all this, because while they do, they're collecting data and they don't even know it. Till suddenly, okay, so picture an oak tree and a maple tree, and then picture a little sapling tree. It's small, right? And then picture a bush of some sort. And so this small child is gathering data. Okay, tree, oak trees, tree. That is a tree. Okay. Then they encounter maple tree. This also is tree. The little sapling. It's small. But mom says it's a little tree. It will become big, right? But then you hit the bush.
Literally.
Perhaps. And so you kind of, it's treeish, but you notice the differences. You see, this is all collecting data. So eventually, though, you get to the point where you say tree, and I can say tree to all of you, and I am guessing, first of all, you've all made a mental image in your mind. We have no tree here.
What is that then? Is
Yeah,
that just a plant?
yeah, it's a plant.
Bless you.
Thank you.
But you all have a picture tree in your mind, and I'm guessing it might not be the same picture. I'd be really surprised if I said draw a tree, and we're going to assume we're all very good artists. We can really, really accurately represent the tree that's in your mind. Okay, so then we've gone up here. We understand tree, and we don't need this anymore. All right, and so Socrates said, each of these has two levels. And in the lower level, we have just images. They're just reflections of things. You're not even actually seeing the thing as it exists itself. You're just seeing a shadow, an image. But then you can turn from the image and you can see, we're going to call it the real thing. The tangible, touchable thing. This part's easy. Got it. The world is full of visible things. Some of them we only see reflections of. Some of them we can actually look at the real thing. One of them we can't look at the sun. We do this when we look at an eclipse, right? I mean, unless you wear the special glasses, right? But in general, they have mechanisms where you can do the shadow if there's an eclipse, and maybe you guys did this with construction paper and a pinhole, and you can see the eclipse. Right. He says the same thing is true up in the world that you can't see. And in the lower level, we have thinking, thoughts. So Emma just did it when you looked at this. All right, you saw it's a plant. Is all happened like that for you, Emma? Because our thoughts, when we get enough data, our thoughts can run really fast, and we don't even know. She looked at it. She thought. She assessed. She's picturing tree. Would we call that a tree? No, it's small. See, just like that, and that all happened up here. I mean, she saw something visible, but all the rest of it happened up there. And the thought takes two things and compares them in your brain. So you see, so get a picture for me of a gold necklace in your head. Now put next to it a picture of a silver necklace in your head. And now assess the relative beauty in your opinion and perhaps value based on what you know. And you can do all of that, right? With no necklace. All of that you can do. And that's that realm. But Socrates says there's another one. And what do we do in this? In this thought realm, we take information, we take data, and we think it through, following the rules of logic or what have you, and we come to conclusion. We start with hypotheses, things that we know are true, and we come to a conclusion. For example, this is the famous one. And they always use Socrates, interestingly. All men are mortal. This is a hypothesis. We don't perhaps know this for sure, but so far in our experience as the human race, everybody has died. Then here's another one. Socrates is a man. This is another hypothesis. Maybe he was an angel, maybe he was, but pretty much to the best of our knowledge, our hypothesis is that Socrates is a man. We can put those two things together and come up with a third thing. Do you know what the third thing is that we would come up with?
Socrates is immortal.
Socrates is mortal. That would be our conclusion. Do you see, we took hypotheses. It's very simple. It's a very simple one. That's what makes such a good example. That everyone is mortal. If Socrates is a man, then Socrates is also mortal. Our brains did that. And what did we do? We took hypotheses, we took givens, and we came up with a conclusion. Okay, it's very exciting. He says that this upper realm doesn't deal with hypotheses. It searches to find out what, I don't know, why men are immortal, what the underlying factors, and he calls this intellection. And the thing we use are the ideas, and in many translations they call them the forms. When Plato talks about forms, he means the prototype in the mind of God. Except I don't know that he'd say in the mind of God. The prototype that exists in a realm we can't see that defines what that thing is. And then we'll go through this again, but in case we don't have time, do you remember he talked a lot about what artists do? Artist paints a chair. And is that thing he painted a real chair? No, it's just a picture of a chair. But that thing that the craftsman made, is it a real chair? And Plato's answer is no, because he used a pattern. That pattern is the form. All right, let me stop there because I'm overloading you. And let's talk about what the cave has to do with this. Because right at the end of book 6, he launches this on us. And then he goes straight into book 7. And you got to remember, guys, there were no chapter divisions or book divisions in ancient books. This just came next. We have books because you can only make a scroll so big, and then it becomes very awkward. So you have these volumes, these books, which is why all these ancient books are called book 1, book 2. It's of chapters, because they were literally grab this scroll, grab that scroll. They had to break it somewhere. Okay. So I asked you a very, very open-ended question, which was tell and explain the allegory of the cave. Would anybody like to just do a description of this story? If you don't want to. Gabriel's game. Go for it, Gabriel, and then I can get a drink.
It starts with like people trapped in a cave by bonds. There's like a small light behind them so they can barely see. Everything looks like shadows to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of them's released and starts to like sees the sun, the surface for the first time. Comes back, tries to tell the others, and they don't have a desire to go out because it seems like he's blind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Does anybody want to? Very good. Does anybody want to add anything? I'm going to add. Can I just kind of act it out instead of reading, just to save my voice? Okay. So yes, Gabriel explained it very well. I'm not going to turn around, but you're all chained. Your head is chained. You can only look at this wall. That's all you got. And there's behind you, not only is there a fire, a light, but there's a wall. He said it's like the little wall that puppeteers use, when you put the little puppets above the wall and everything, they come down. Okay. Great. So behind you, you can't turn your head. Behind you, periodically, people come carrying things. I don't know if they're cardboard cutouts or, maybe a big stuffed rabbit or I don't know. People walk back and forth and they carry things. And what do you see?
The shadows.
You see the shadows. All you see is the shadows. All you see is the shadows. Okay? So, and you think that's all there is. And it so happens that the acoustics in this room are such that sometimes those people, they talk to each other. It's like, oh, how are you? I'm fine. And it bounces off this wall and it sounds to you like these people are talking, these shadows are talking. And you're just like your whole life. Like, yeah, awesome. And he said some people get really good at predicting which one's going to come next. It's like, oh, I've noticed that after this comes, that comes, and whatever. Everybody says, oh, you're so smart. So eventually, somebody gets free. And the first thing he does is turn around. And he sees the wall and the light. And the light hurts his eyes. The fire burning hurts his eyes. Because he's never looked directly at a light before. He's only seen the light bouncing off here. And he can't quite see, but he squints and he looks, and all of a sudden, he starts seeing the puppets and the people. And he turns to the person next to him and he's like, dude, those things are not real. Those things on the wall are not real. There's people behind. Oh, you're an idiot. Shut up. So not true. Nobody's ever seen that. See, what does he do? He turned from the images to the real thing. This is the step he's moved. Do you have a question?
No.
Okay. But Socrates says, what if it goes even further? Because they're still in a cave. Hello. They're all living in a cave. He said, don't you think if someone took that guy and drug him up the path out into the outdoors? First of all, we've all done it. Heck, I can't watch a 2-hour movie in a movie theater in the middle of the day and then I come out and I'm like, I'm blind, I can't see.
Yeah.
You know, when you come out of a dark room and you can't see. And he said eventually he's going to be able to, okay. Eventually he's going to be able to see, you know, he said reflections in the water and things, just like we're at the image level. He's thinking about them. Eventually his eyes adjust and he can see the real things that those cardboard cutouts were just images of down below. And eventually he's going to be able to see the sun. Do not look directly at the sun. Socrates does not remind us of this. But, you know, an awareness to be able to look into the sky. He said, that is the progression out of the cave. And he says, let me read this because I find it amusing. Let me read this part. Well then, when he recalled his first home and the wisdom there and his fellow prisoners in that time, don't you suppose he would consider himself happy for the change and pity the others? Well, those people are still trapped in the cave. That's so sad. They have no clue. And if in that time there were among them any honors, praises, and prizes for the man who is sharpest at making out the things that go by, and most remembers which of them are accustomed to pass before, which after, which others at the same time, in your opinion, would he be desirous of them, the honors, and envy those who are honored and hold power? Or rather, would he be affected, as Homer says, and want very much to be on the soil, a serf to another man, a portionless man, like Achilles said in the underworld, than to undergo anything whatsoever than to opine those things and live that way? Now reflect on this too, he says. If such a man were to come down again and sit in the same seat, on coming suddenly from the sun, wouldn't his eyes get infected with darkness? He means, wouldn't it be hard to see? Again, we all know this, right? It's super bright outside in the middle of the summer, and you go in the house to get a drink or whatever, and it just seems really dark in the house. It just seems really, really dark. In fact, sometimes, depending on the brightness level that you've been outside in and how many windows are in your house, it gets really dark in your house. So if those people came from outdoors and they went back down in the cave and they sat down, and if he once more had to compete with those perpetual prisoners in forming judgments about those shadows while his vision was still dim, before his eyes had recovered, and if the time needed for getting accustomed were not at all short, wouldn't he be the source of laughter? And wouldn't it be said of him that he went up and came back with his eyes corrupted, and then it's not even worth trying to go up? And if they were somehow able to get their hands on him and kill the man who attempts to release and lead them up when they kill him? Well, this image as a whole must be connected with what was said before. Liken the domain revealed through sight to the prison home, and the light of fire in it to the sun's power. And in applying the going up and seeing of what's above to the soul's journey to the intelligible place, you'll not mistake my expectation, since you desire to hear it. A God doubtless knows if it happens to be true. At all events, this is the way the phenomena look to me. In the knowable, the last thing to be seen, and that with considerable effort, is the idea of the good. Remember he said the sun was like the child of the good. But once seen, it must be concluded that this, in fact, is the cause of all that is right and fair in everything. So, if a man comes down from that, and now we're not in the cave anymore, a man comes down from contemplating what really is, and he says, and he's got to go down, and he says, when he's compelled in courts to contest about the shadows of the just, or the representations of which they are shadows, and to dispute about the way these things are understood by men who have never seen justice itself. what are the two things people say about philosophers, according to Adeimantus, I think? What are they, Gabriel?
They're like queer, vicious, and then I can add on to that. They say they're useless people.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. Weirdos, useless, or downright vicious. And now remember our ship captain. And remember the only guy on the ship who was any good to them. He doesn't appear to be doing anything. He just gets out these instruments and he writes down numbers in a notebook and he throws a line in the water and then he stares at the sun, he stares at the moon, he stares at the He's just eating our food on the ship for no good reason. And he's the only one who knows where they are. And they mock him. When someone goes up to philosophy and then they come back down and they're forced to deal with, I don't know, courts and legal wrangles and pop culture or whatever, and they don't know anything about it. It's like, well, you're kind of adult, aren't you? You're kind of an idiot. They're the only ones who know what really is. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
This image is really, really powerful. I told you it's probably the most famous image in all of philosophy. That this is the image of philosophy, of philosophizing, of trying to see what truly is and is always the same. So when we ask questions like, what is justice? What is holiness? What is temperance? What is courage? What does it look like in every case? We're not looking for shadows and we're not looking for examples, but we're looking for its true existence. When it is present, when the idea of that thing is present, then this thing is brave because it partakes of courage. This was Plato's idea anyway. Aristotle didn't always agree with him, and this is okay. But I think we can all see that some things are transient. Some things come and go. And some things stay the same. And so we ask ourselves, do we want to spend more of our time learning the things that come and go or learning the things that stay the same? Now, can we only learn the things that stay the same and ignore everything that comes and goes?
No.
No, we cannot. We cannot and live in this world. If they change the laws, I need to know about that, right? If they change the speed limit, I need to pay attention to that. If there's new rules of some sort, I need to know about this. I need to know how to drive a car. I need to know how the money system works, even though this is it came to be once and it will pass away. But I still need to know. But would I want to spend all my time there? Just consumed with things that some of them 6 months from now they'll be changed. A year from now they'll be changed. Or something that if Jesus doesn't come back and the world doesn't end, 1,000 years from now will still be the same. That's our question as human beings. I'm not going to answer for you. I'm not going to tell you the things that you should pay attention to and not. It's not my business. But this is what Plato and Socrates thought was the only life worth living. And that they didn't want to live in a cave and be like the people who think all those things they get excited about, they're not even real. Honor, and they honor, we're giving an award to this guy because he's the best at figuring out which shadows come after which shadows. Don't care. Just don't care. All right, that's enough of that. Does anybody have a question or a comment about the whole cave thing? Yeah.
What's the reality for the people who are doing the puppets? Like, what's their reality?
That's a really good question. They know some truth. Oh, I really like this question, Evelyn. So, these are people who, okay, we have to conjecture, because Socrates tells us, Do they know that there's anything outside the cave, or do they not know there's anything outside the cave? That'll be our question number one. And we'll have to make two scenarios. Let's make scenario number one. They don't know. They don't know. They think the cave is everything that exists. But they also know those shadows on the wall are not the real thing. They know that they are manipulating them. What are they doing? What are they up to? What do you think their status is? In that case, they think that this is all there is, but they're also fully aware that they're manipulating the images. Who might be somebody? Is there like a group of people or something we can liken it to in our world? Everybody's focused on it. Everybody else is focused on it. But somebody's behind the scenes manipulating it, and they know it's not true. I mean, and I don't know that there does exist this class. I'm just, what would it look like?
Why am I thinking movie makers?
Okay, I mean, that's
People behind the scenes working everything, creating everything.
creating everything.
And then, like actors, people watching the movie.
But what if the movie is everything we see? Like there isn't just.
I mean, we watch movies a lot.
Well, I do too, Emma. But what if everything, the entire world as we know it, who could be a group of people with the power to manipulate what we're looking at and what we see? I'm older and much more cynical than you are. You know what that says about me also? I watch the X-Files too much. Governments could do that.
Yeah, like some sort of shadow government.
Spiritual powers can.
Spiritual powers can do that. I'm sure there are more, but for time constraints, we'll just stick with those. So now, there's a difference between the spiritual powers and the government. And it's a very good difference, and it takes me to the next thing. Government. We're just going to say a secular, okay, we're leaving God out of this equation, because remember, they believe the cave is all there is. And the government is saying, everybody, look at that, look at that. What would be their motive? Control. Control. They control what people think about, they control what people say, they control what people think, because they only show them shadows. Again, is our government or government, I'm not saying that they are. Again, this is very X-Files sort of government conspiracy sort of thing. But, all right, then innocent demons, spiritual powers. Do spiritual powers know there's something outside the cave?
They do.
Oh, they do. They know. So what if our manipulators know? Does that seem better or worse to you?
That seems weird.
It's crazy.
It seems, because they're not only keeping you from knowing the shadows of not the shadows, the things, the objects being carried. They're keeping you from knowing there's anything outside of that at all. They want to keep you chained in the cave. They're also about control. But they want to control something much bigger than your life. They want to control your soul. That's terrifying. So, the answer to that question could have big ramifications. Socrates just leaves it. Plato just leaves it. Does that make sense? Now, we could ask ourselves, is this ever happening to us? And let's go with the spiritual, because I don't know what the government's up to. But we do know that there are evil spiritual powers who want to ruin you. We know it. As Christians, we know it, we believe it. So what better way than to keep you focused on things that are completely and utterly irrelevant to any sort of spirit. We're going to see now spiritual progress. Here, I'm going to read. This is, Plato wouldn't have seen that, okay? I'm reading into that. He doesn't want you thinking, he certainly doesn't want you here, because in Christians who kind of took these ideas, so, where are these forms? God. God is the source of all idea. Remember, things to seen, idea. The original. He's the original author of all the patterns. And they don't want you to, they'd like to keep you down here. How do we do that? Media does it. And I'm not telling you what to do. You guys are all teenagers, and I'm not your mom anyway, so whatever. But I'm just observing that, and I'm going back in my history, my life, okay? The things that I paid a lot of attention to that are really down in this realm. And it kind of makes you wonder, who is it that wants me paying attention to that? And what am I being kept from? And you've got a kind of furrowed brow look, Nathan. But I mean, nothing that seems insidious, like current fashion. You guys have no idea how much I have Googled what face shapes look good with bangs. Okay, some of the ladies might be a little more, maybe the gentlemen are Googling, I don't know, sports scores or something. I'm not telling you not to watch sports, but I'm saying it will all pass away, right? And you all know the difference, hopefully, and you're learning the difference between a total obsession that's eating up all your time versus a mild passing interest. And if it hurts you to walk away from it, and if it makes you angry when someone interrupts you from it, you need to deal with that, right? There's a problem. And it can be a good thing. Be totally honest. Sometimes I'm reading my books, and the phone rings. I'm recording this. It's one of my children. And I'm like, I'm reading here. Like, how many moms would be thrilled if their kids call them a lot? What? Okay, so that's unhealthy, right? I have to just, oh, good. My son or my daughter is calling me. I'm going to put my book down and talk. See, I need to let it go. Okay, that's enough of that. That's enough
Good tangent.
that's a tangent. But
Thank you, Evelyn.
yes, that was awesome. Okay, so then how are we going to bring them out of the cave? That's the next question. What is the process of bringing them out, metaphorically, look like? And it is education. But he says something interesting about the goal of education. This is the next question I asked you. What is the goal that he wants of the education he wants these future guardians to have? What is this education going to do?
I guess turn them into the light instead of the dark.
Okay. Turn them into it or turn them...
Make
Turn them
facing
to it.
it.
Exactly. He says, education is not what the professions of certain men assert it to be. They presumably assert that they put into the soul knowledge that isn't in it, as though they were putting sight into blind eyes. Students come to me, you're basically blind. Now I gotta fix your sight, right? I'm gonna, in others, we would say, not put sight into blind eyes, but say, fill your heads with knowledge. Because fill your heads with a bunch of knowledge. And they, okay. But the present argument, this argument, indicates that this power is in the soul of each. You have the power of knowing. You have the power of seeing. And that the instrument with which each learns, just as an eye is not able to turn toward the light from the dark without the whole body, must be turned around from that which is coming into being, by that he means transient things, together with the whole soul until it is able to endure looking at that which is, and the brightest part of that which is. And we affirm that this is the good, don't we? Therefore, this would be an art, education, of turning around, concerned with the way in which this power can most easily and efficiently be turned around. Not an art of producing sight in it. Rather, this art, the art of education, takes as a given that the sight is there, but not rightly turned, nor looking at what it ought to look at, and accomplishes this object. It's not, says Socrates, that young people are born with an utter clean slate with nothing, there's nothing in there. Rather, you have been given as a human being the power of knowledge, the power of knowing. But you got to expend it on the things that are worth knowing. So he says, education isn't just filling you up with the things that you need to know. You need to know Herodotus. You need to know the Persian War. Rather, it's having you change what you look at, not physically, metaphorically, at things which always are. So here's an example. We read about the Persian War in Herodotus, and he said things like, immoderate revenge, leads to a downfall. Is that something transitory? Is that something that might always be true? Yeah. Even, he wasn't a Christian. But Christians, is revenge sinful? But it leads you nowhere good. This is something that always is, right? And I find it really interesting that he calls them what is coming to be versus what is. Who said that he was? Who said that he is? God, I am. So that is my name, I am. All right. It's very cool. However, I don't know that you're going to like the next answer, because now he wants to know what it is that will make us look the right direction. Not all information will make you turn the right direction. And you might be happy to know that apparently grammar rules do not make you look the right direction. They are important, and we need to learn to use them correctly to function in society. He does not say that a thorough knowledge of the Persian War will help you turn away from the shadows and go out into the sun. Does anybody remember what sorts of things he said would do that? This was a little hard to follow. I think it's a little hard to follow. Or even if you remember where he ended up, the subjects that he said, and we can backtrack and talk about why. All right, let me find. What? What was the first thing he said?
What?
Subjects of education, yes.
Oh. I think
What kind of
astronomy was
studies? Astronomy is one.
Did someone say math or like geometry?
Math and geometry. And then he also lists one that he says there's no name for. It's a study of solid figures. It's like geometry except for solids, which in his time hadn't really been. We do have the study of solid figures, but they didn't. So, other words, what were known as the maths. Maths, we always just make math singular, but it's mathematics. It's plural, maths. In Britain, they call it the maths. It's the mathematica, the things that can be understood. So, why math? Here's what he says. Look, if I show you a finger, and you look at it, it's like, great, it's a finger. And you just don't really think much else about it, right? Great, Mrs. Ferguson has a finger. But then I show you these two. And your mind starts working. It doesn't really for you because you know what you're seeing. But if we really wanted to ponder it, right? Like some people do call the thumb a finger. Some people don't include, they say the thumb and four fingers. But it's obviously finger-ish. I mean, there's a lot of similarities here. But obviously, one is very tall and slenderish. One is very short and fat. But they're both in the realm. And if we call them both finger, but they're two different things, but they're one thing, they're finger. But one is tall and one is short. Do you see? And now, what is my mind doing? My mind is trying to figure out what makes both these finger. They bend, but they don't. What do they bend? They do bend the same number of knuckles. You see, so suddenly I'm counting and I'm comparing size and shape. I know it's really stupid, but he does use the finger in the Republic, the idea of finger.
No, I didn't think it was stupid. It was just everyone's like looking at their.
Yeah, I mean, like, you're going to go home and you're going to be doing this. And your mom's like, what's wrong with you? It's like, I don't know. I'm contemplating finger. And your mom's going to call me and say, yeah, they're not coming back to class anymore. We're getting a doctor. No. He said, whenever something, he said, conjures up two ideas. So, for example, I don't think he really uses this per se. But if we had 3 lines, don't worry about the fact that one of them's crooked and straight, okay. And we focused on this one. And I asked you, is that line long or short?
Joke's on you. It's the same length. It's just an angle.
No, not in this case. Not in this
Okay,
case.
good.
Not
I
in
don't
this
wanna do
case.
brutal today.
No. What is whether I call it long or short depend upon?
What you're comparing
Length?
it to.
Well, yes, but in this case, if I cover this one up and I say, is that line long or short? You're like, long. And then if I do this, you're like, is that line long or short? It's short.
What?
And so length, measurement, calculation, he said, these things train your mind to look beyond the shadows. And they pull you out of the cave. Because you've got to start thinking, well, what do I mean by long or short? How am I going to determine, all right, and it lifts you up. We talked about 4, right? And there's 4 of these, 4 of those, 4. But eventually, and we're all at that point, where if there is a group of 4 of anything, unless they're microscopic, right, or so big that you can't see them all you have to do is look and see 4. You don't even have to count. When you roll a 4 on the dice, you don't count the dots anymore. If you play games with painfully small children, and it is painful, and if it's 2 dice, 1, 2, 3. Gosh, this game's going to take forever. Because they haven't got to the point where they recognize it as a whole. They don't know 4-ness. They have a picture of 4-ness. So it happens to be mathematical subjects that draw your mind above the specific examples. Another example he uses is geometry. He says, geometers talk about, and I used this last week, with let's just take a square this time. It was a right angle last time. Okay. And if I tell you, that you run a diagonal, and the diagonal of that square, if you did all the calculations, would be a side times square root of 2, right? That's going to be the length of the diagonal. I'm not going to tell you how we know this. But do I mean just that one square? Is that true of only that one square? No. When I say that, I'm talking about every square that could exist or has never existed. If it follows the definition of a square, that's true of it. An equilateral triangle has all sides the same length. Which equilateral triangle? All of them. I'm making statements about what is. It doesn't change. It never changes. It can't. Because it's not just built into the figure, the diagram on the paper. It exists up here. It can't go away. If you do geometry, it will always be true, unless you do some sort of weird non-Euclidean geometry or some sort of, Einstein relativity thing, okay? Does that make sense? And here's the thing. I love words and books, but language changes. The meaning of the same language sometimes changes when you visit different places that speak the same language, right? You go to England, they call things different names than we do. But we both supposedly speak English. And sometimes you can't understand what they're talking about. And sometimes they don't understand what we're talking about. It changes, but right angle never changes. And a square never changes. And he says that, so it's calculation, number, the idea of number. And also, fortunately for us, 2 plus 2 is 4, and that also never changes. An equilateral triangle always has all sides even. I don't care where it is. I don't care how big it is. I don't care if it exists. I don't care what color. I care about nothing. It will be. Solid geometry, what he calls has a stoichiometry. I don't know if that's right, but it has there's a name for it, solid geometry. So if you have a cube, right, or a sphere, the same thing's. And then astronomy. And he says something really weird about astronomy. He says, Glaucon or whatever says, oh, I can see how astronomy makes you see, look up. Because, And Socrates says, yeah, not the way they do it now. Because they're all worried about positions of this and that. He said, I'm talking about solid bodies moving through space. It's all mathematical. That's the astronomy he means. And the ancients believed everything was perfect outside the realm of the moon, right? That the circles they formed was all perfect. Those are the things we got to train our guardians in. And he said, haven't you noticed that people who are really good at the maths tend to be pretty sharp in general? It takes a lot of mental effort. We all know this. It takes a lot of mental effort. Shockingly, I love this. Everybody in the world, every teacher in the world, every student in the world really needs to read this. Okay. Yeah, he's setting on astronomy. And I don't know if it's Glaucon or Adeimantus says. Socrates says, is astronomy the next? Oh, it seems so to me. Better awareness of seasons, months, and years is suitable, not only for farming and navigation, but no less for generalship. Yeah, we should so do astronomy, because generals need to know, like, weather and everything, and navigating. You are amusing, I said. You are like a man who is afraid of the many, the majority of people, in your not wanting to seem to command useless studies. It's scarcely an ordinary thing, rather it's hard, to trust that in these studies a certain instrument of everyone's soul, one that is destroyed and blinded by other practices, is purified and rekindled, an instrument more important to save than 10,000 eyes, for with it alone is truth seen. All right. He says, the many see no other benefit from the studies worth mentioning. I've said this to some of you before because it comes up periodically. Have you ever been learning something and asked yourself or your mother, why do I need to learn this? I'm never going to use it. If you have, totally you should admit it. I have. We all have in the modern world. Because what do we think? If I can't use it for something tangible, and where am I using it? In the cave. Probably. Then why bother? And this is so hard. This is one of the hardest things for moderns to wrap their heads around. They didn't study mathematics because it was useful. They studied because they thought it purified your soul. It trained you to see things in your mind without having to have it there in front of you. If you go through Euclid, if you go through the original geometry book of Euclid, you got to use your imagination a little bit. You got to see. He's got propositions in there where he asks you, okay, now in the proof, it's like, take a point that's not in the plane of the figure and put it up here and draw these lines, but you can't do it. You have to kind of do it in your mind, and your mind has to turn that figure around. And now, am I telling you you're evil if you take heart in the fact that at least you can use your math for something? No, I'm not. And Socrates does say, obviously it's useful. Obviously. He said that shouldn't be the primary goal. He's talking about his guardians, right? We want to train them to see what is. And the objects of mathematics are things that are. Because they never change. They're always the same. It's weird. For us, it's weird. Because we just want to know, what am I going to use this for? And Socrates says you're going to use it to become a full human being. Is that good enough for you? You're going to use it to leave the cave where you look at stuff and you think it's real, but it's not really real. You want to just live in ignorance? Fine. That would be his answer. That will be not my answer for you. But all right. Why does Socrates disparage compulsory learning? I feel like everybody should like this. Yes, Emma.
Because see things forced learning doesn't abide in a soul.
Do you agree?
It's not good to force things on you, definitely, because you're not, like if you cram as many lessons of homework as you can in a day, you're not going to take the time to learn anything. It's going to fly right by your head. And it's just going to make you more frustrated in the end. That's not good for your soul anyway.
That's not good either. He says, the free man ought not to learn any study slavishly. Forced labors performed by the body don't make the body any worse, but forced study, no forced study abides in the soul. And remember, he doesn't say no forced study won't stick in your head for a while. We all know that forced study can stick in your head for a while, at least until you can get the test taken. Let's just be honest, because this is the world I grew up into. No, you're going to say anything that's going to shock me, because I've been known to live that way too. But he said, okay, I'm assuming, you don't need to answer. So for some of you, I think I know the answer, or what you're going to think about. Some of you I don't, but I don't need to know. Just think of something you really enjoy, like a hobby you have, or something that gives you joy. And then think about how much you know about it. And then ask yourself, if somebody made you learn that, did they give you quizzes and exams and make you learn it? No, you learned it because you wanted to know. This is the trick. How do I make you guys want to know? And I can't do it completely, right? Because I'm not, because then I'm beating you, and it's you're learning slavishly. But I want you to want to know, and then it will stay. And remember, he says it will stay in your soul. So, is it possible that you might learn something and not remember every detail, but it might change you as a person? I think so. I've read books, and if you said, tell me all about the book, like, yeah, I'm a little sketchy on the details, but I remember this, right? The one glowing thing that came to me and spoke to me out of that book, and it stuck in my soul. Because I was reading because I wanted to. Because I was learning about it because I wanted to. I think he makes a good point. But how, I know I'm going on a lot of tangents. Here's why, and I promise we will go through book. Actually, we better start pretty soon because we have 20 minutes. We got all this. We're actually going to zip through that pretty quick because it gets kind of hairy and it's a little tiresome, in my opinion. Who do we think in America today, who should get an education?
Everyone.
Everyone. In Socrates City, can everyone make the climb all the way up?
No.
And this is a problem we don't like to talk about because there's training. You can train pretty much anyone to read, right? Pretty much anybody can learn to read, unless you some sort of disability, right? And even then, some people with marginal disabilities can learn to read fairly well, right? They still might stumble over things. There's certain things that we can all learn, but if everybody can't learn the deepest and the best, who do we offer that to? Everybody, or do we start getting picky and choosy? You know, many private schools, you apply and they don't let everyone in. Colleges, it used to be much harder to get into college than it is today. Colleges now, at this point, they let pretty much everybody in, but once upon a time, it was difficult. They went, oh, can you learn this level of work? Can you do this? Do you want to learn? And we have a problem because on the one hand, we might feel in our gut, yes, we want people to learn and come out of the cave. And on the other hand, he says flat out, this is not for the many. That the many in his city are going to be auxiliaries, or they're going to be below that. They're going to be merchants. They're not going to live by these rules, right? They're going to amass money and live in their own houses, and they're basically going to happily look at the shadows on the wall for their lives because they don't understand. And I have nothing to say about that. It's something that we all have to come to grips with when we read Socrates or Plato, because he's not seeing this as something that everybody's going to be capable of. But in our time, in our country, we have the goal of educating everybody to the highest capacity that they are capable of. Which means sometimes if you're super duper bright, that class has to slow down for you, right? But yeah, I mean, it has to slow you down. Not slow down for you. It slows you down so that the others can keep up. Likewise, if you're struggling, then good luck, because we've got to move along with the rest. Anyway, I've got no answers. You guys can ponder. What do we do when a country says we will educate everyone, but a great philosopher says not everyone is capable of being educated, certainly not at a certain level? It's a problem. All right, enough of that. Let's take a look at all this weird democracy, oligarchy, what? With the chart that I had you fill out. We are not going to spend time on the little backstories of what turns a democratic man into an oligarchic man. Let's just hit the highlights. Well, mostly because of time constraints. Also because I feel like we'd barely get through the first one and then it would be time to leave you, or you leave me, and I want to get through it.
Fair.
However, let's take a look at this progression. And the only thing I want to say about this series is that his backstories try to describe how one might turn into another. So that's in his mind. One is turning into another, slowly over time. Now, the first one I filled in for you. Socrates City, the Republic. And what does it value? Wisdom and balance, right? Moderation. Everyone minding their own business. And what does it turn into? Timocracy. So this might help you a little bit. So you notice they all have krisi, comes from kratos, govern, leader. And time is the Greek word for honor. All right, so this is a big hint, I guess. What does the timocracy value?
Glory and honor.
Glory and honor. Glory and honor. So we've fallen just a tad. Does it seem like glory and honor is a bad thing necessarily?
Depends on what you're asking.
That's true.
It depends on who you want the glory from, and who you want the
glory
honor,
for.
and who you want, and yes, what you want the glory for. But in general, these guardians and auxiliaries, they've gotten a little out of whack over time. And he says, can we go to that next question real quick? What insight does he give on why constitutions and cities change? What makes this change happen? I'm going to give it to Gabriel.
Because no matter what, everything eventually decays.
Okay, because everything decays, because mistakes are going to be made, because we're human beings. So remember his perfect, maybe I'm interested to read your papers, how we're going to basically breed the best of the best. But he says, eventually, you know what? Unauthorized children are going to get born. People are going to get together behind the scenes without our say-so, and there's going to be babies, and they're not going to be gold or silver, It might be a little mixed. This might come up. He actually has this whole, because they don't have babies at this certain mathematical pinpointed time. And Dr. Seeley, my mentor, says, yeah, nobody understands what he means. Great, that makes me feel better. So mistakes will be made, and they will start loving honor rather than just the good. Does that make sense? So the guardians were supposed to be in charge, but maybe the auxiliaries, step up. They might, we honor, glory, yeah. All right, what does it turn into?
Oligarchy.
Oligarchy.
That's not how you pronounce it.
Well, oligarchy is fine. Oligos means few in Greek. It is the rule of the few. And how do we choose this few? Does anybody remember? Who do the few that rule tend to be in an oligarchy?
Is it the richer?
The richer, yeah.
The rich people. The rich people. So what do they value?
Wealth and money.
Wealth and money. So we have this very spirited, democracy, glory and honor. And of course, along with the glory and honor, some wealth might come in. And so these people grow up, and eventually they just really are valuing wealth more than the glory and honor. And hey, why don't we just have the rich people in charge? So we get the oligarchy. What does, when oligarchy decays, what does it turn into?
Democracy.
Democracy comes next. This is very interesting because it's pretty low on the list of what Plato and Socrates considered good rules. Democracy comes next. And, these money-loving people spend all this time on pleasures, and there's so many pleasures. And then, he says you have this son, sees his dad hoarding wealth, and he's like tired of hoarding wealth. I'm just going to go out and do whatever I want, and let's just, everybody make their own decisions and their own choices about the way they want to live, and we get democracy. What is a democracy value?
Freedom.
Freedom. He goes actually at pretty great length, considering the reputation that democracy has today. He does say something good about it. He says, It is probably the fairest of the regimes. And by fairest, he does not mean most just. He means most beautiful. Nice to look at. Just like a many-colored cloak, decorated in all hues, this regime, decorated with all dispositions, would also look fairest. And many, perhaps, I said, like boys and women looking at many-colored things, would judge this to be the fairest regime. And they said, well, somebody else says, I bet it's a good place to look for every sort of government. And he says, yeah, because they're all there. Every type is
I
there.
think this is the question. What is
Oh.
Socrates' opinion on a democratic
Oh,
city?
thank you, Emma. Thank you. So I already guess I told you that. So can we hold off on the Democratic man?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for pointing that out. Now, what does the democracy turn into?
A tyranny.
A tyranny. And what is a tyranny value?
Control.
One man in charge of everything.
Yeah, one guy, power. Power, pure and simple, control. Now, so he has the democratic, or the regime and the man. First of all, why do you think he says, oh, this is the democratic regime, this is the democratic man? What does he mean? Why is he doing that on each stage of the way?
To show what kind of people that form of government produces.
Okay, what kind of people that form of government produces? Also, where have we seen him put a regime and a person together before in this book?
Search for justice.
To search for justice. We built a republic to look at a man and see if where justice is in the republic and where justice is in the man. So we've got this. So he says, I'm going to look at. He says, there's as many regimes as there are types of men. Now, this is the kind. I hope you'll think this is cool. We're just getting rid of all of this. So when they looked at the original man looking for justice, he wanted to know if there seemed to be different parts of the soul. And they agreed that there were parts of the soul. And they found 3 parts. Do you remember what the parts were?
This was a few years ago, right?
Yes, it's been a while ago.
Oh, the
What-
calculating.
Okay, the calculating, yeah. Well, I'm gonna put thinking too, because that's what he means by calculating.
Yeah.
Okay, what's another part?
Desiring.
The desiring, and he likes to call it in this section the money making, which basically because money buys you most things you might desire. Money, I'm sorry to say this, but women, even now, but back then, fancy clothes, big houses, fancy cars, whatever. What was that other part?
Spirited.
The spirited. And he said justice in the soul was when these parts all did their right jobs. And that makes the best regime. So let's take a look at his Socrates city. So Socrates city and the guardians. They say, oh, they're the wisdom part, they're the thinking part. And they tell the other parts what to do. And they recruit the auxiliaries. Now, time passes and we get the timocratic regime. Which part do you think is in charge when we're lovers of glory and honor?
Spirited.
We just changed who's in charge. And if it's person, we change who's in charge of the person. And this is the person who gets all bent out of shape if they get insulted, and right? Even though, you see, if you thought about it, it's like, well, he probably didn't mean it that way. If I start a fight with this person, it's not going to end well. This would all be apparent, but they don't care. Right? Now, the oligarchic, the guys who have money, which part do you think might be in charge?
Desiring.
because they want everything that money can buy. Now, remember, when I say in charge, I mean in charge. It's telling the other parts what they're going to do. The calculating part, oh, but it would be a good idea to spend some money, I don't know, fixing up my rental properties because I'm a slumlord and my tenants are all going to die. Nope, want to keep the money. People would look up to you if you were good to the poor and gave away some of your money. Nope, want to keep the money. Right. Now this degenerates to the Democratic man. Who's in charge technically in a democracy?
Like everybody.
Everybody. It's just a free-for-all. He says the Democratic man is like, oh, I feel like this today. Oh, I feel like that today. Today I'm going to learn this. Today I'm going to go out there and be awesome. Today I'm going to eat bonbons and, watch Netflix all day. They don't know. Whatever. Who wants to be in charge today? That's what they ask themselves. Until they realize there's something insidious among them. There's a Pisistratus lurking in there, and he's going to dress up some pretty woman like Athena and ride into the city and take over. Which of these parts do you think might most easily become a tyrant, and you didn't even know it? Well, we wanted the calculating to be in charge. It could become a tyrant, but you're enslaved to it and you can't get away. Which group of desires do you think you might? Yeah. This is, guys, not to be mean, this is junkies. This is addictions. This is, you just can't stop. It's a tyrant over you now. You were playing around with it, and then you were going to take turns, but it doesn't take turns. If you let it go, it goes.
Dang. And
you don't want, you just can't stop it anymore. This is very insightful. It's a really weird section, So, and this, I blew up that question too, but Emma, what did you say anything about what about the Democratic type of man?
Oh, yes.
Tell me.
No, just mixed, very wild.
Okay, mixed and variable. Yes, he loves freedom.
Not variable.
Well, yeah.
I wrote wild.
Okay, wild is very good. Because you just don't know.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
Yes, he's all over the place. Let me find just a second. Okay, he's talking about tyranny, so it's before that. To whichever one happens along as though it were chosen by lot, he hands over the rule within himself until it is satisfied, and then again to another, dishonoring none but fostering them all on the basis of equality. But they all need equality. We got to give. We can't just reason. We got to give them all equal chance. And he doesn't admit true speech or let it pass into the guardhouse of his mind. If someone says that there are some pleasures belonging to fine and good desires and some belonging to bad desires, and that the ones must be practiced and honored and the others checked and enslaved, rather he shakes his head at all this and says they're all alike and must be honored on an equal basis. All desires are equal. What do you mean that's a bad desire? Of course it's not. I want to do it, so it's good. You're like, no. There's supposed to be something judging the desires and saying, this is a good thing to do, this is something that needs to be kept in check. And the Democratic man's like, nah, let's just do it all. Very insightful. All right, that sums up 7 and 8. Hopefully that was more understandable. You see where he's going. All I want you to do this week is finish the Republic. Finish the Republic. And he ends with a bang of a very weird story. You get to hear him tell you a story.
More weird stories.
Yes. I want to hear what you think of the story next week. That is all. Any questions? I will either email you a scan of your paper, so you can start revising, but probably not because it's going to take me a while to get through them all. But no worries. We'll get them done. Otherwise, have a good week.